We've been talking about it. Disney's stock closing now at its lowest level in more than 3 years yesterday. You can take a look right there at 82.83. And joining us right now with more on the company, Barton Crockett. He's a senior analyst at Rosenblatt Securities. Barton, good morning to you. I want to talk to you about the stock, the challenges that we're seeing with the strike, but I also want to talk to you about this report in The Information, which I'm sure you saw, about the prospect that Disney is talking to Amazon about a partnership around ESPN and what that could ultimately mean. Where should we start? You want to start with the stock? Because I think there are a lot of folks who own the stock who are thinking to themselves, is this going lower or is this going to turn?
Look, I think that one thing or the other is going to happen with Disney stock. They're either going to find some kind of solid footing underneath the business that's going to support the stock, or the pressures kind of build on this company to restructure and to break up. And I think in the latter scenario, you've got certainly an opportunity for value to be created from these levels. And I don't think the management team wants that. I think they believe they can turn the business around so it doesn't get to that point. But they've had activists before in Disney, and they could return if things don't shape up.
What do you think they need to do first? I mean, you've heard Bob Iger talk openly about some kind of partnership with ESPN, and we can talk about what that looks like, whether that's something you do with an Amazon, whether you spin off the linear channels, how you do that, what that looks like. Obviously, there's still the Hulu deal that's coming up, which is going to cost them some real cash to buy out the stake that Comcast, parent company of this network, owns. So how do you see that playing out, and what would you do first?
Well, look, I think the team there at Disney wants to turn around the consolidated ship. I think that's difficult with all of the pressures on pay TV, the secular pressures, which they've acknowledged. In my mind, the right structure is a breakup. In my mind, the right structure is a theme park anchored equity. The TV networks moved off into a structure where perhaps private equity that traffics in challenged assets, cash flow challenged assets at low multiples would be interested, and a content library that's exceptionally valuable and could be of great use to any number of tech platforms, which I see as really the gravitational center for video generationally going forward. So I think over time, popular content, sports, popular libraries like Disney's will gravitate towards these tech platforms, which makes the discussions with Amazon in this context very interesting.
Let's just stipulate one idea, because I think it's an interesting one, and trying to understand what it means. You believe the theme parks should be separated from the content. And a lot of folks have thought that would be very, very difficult. I mean, you could license, obviously, content to the parks, but that historically, obviously, having Mickey Mouse is a central component. Having that IP is a central component of the park business.
Correct. And I'm not saying that you lose Mickey and Disney at all. I'm saying, and I think it's really not complicated to set up the type of licensing deals in perpetuity as part of a separation. I think that the separation is first the TV networks, which are declining assets from the rest of it, and they've acknowledged that those businesses are not core. And then I think that the second is what happens with the content library, and I do think that they do not want to lose that, but I think they'll lose the right to keep that if the business doesn't turn around and they don't take the necessary steps. And I do think over time that content of this quality, of this caliber, the pressures kind of build for those to be married to tech platforms. And does that take the form of a full separation? Potentially. And I think that that's a process that from here creates value for Disney shareholders.
Hey, Barton, do you ascribe any of the stock market action in Disney and the new lows to the, for lack of a better term, a woke broke business model? You go woke, you go broke. I don't know whether you connected. They got myriad problems at Disney. You don't need to look for more problems to figure out what's going on at Disney. But I remember we had a really low down in Orlando attendance on a certain, in a period in the summer. And I think Iger said, well, it was hot. And then people look back and it was the same temperature that it was last year, the year before that. Florida wasn't really overly hot. And then you look at Target. There's no doubt that with Target, there's something there. And with Bud Light, there was something there. If DeSantis has taken some hits from people that are mad at what he did to Disney, shouldn't some of the people that agree with DeSantis, couldn't that be part of the problem here? Or do you say no, got nothing to do with it?
Look, I'm not going to say definitively that there's been no political impact. I know the company has, asserted that they don't really see it. I do believe our weather checks would argue that it was worse weather in Florida. So I think it is fair to say that weather was a headwind. It's too bad that they've gotten themselves into that. I feel like. Well,
it's not just with DeSantis. I mean, there's at Snow White. There are 7 magical creatures. There's I don't know, some other movies that weren't well received because they were thought of as being too. Comcast's been doing pretty well, and you look at Walmart versus Target, and there's it goes like this, Barton. There's a clear difference. So I don't know.
It's crazy because you're right. I mean, there are many companies that aren't in this political debate, and Disney has somehow ended up in it. And and I think, it's comes from the top, and that would have been Iger and Chapek, and they haven't been able to navigate around it. But here we are, and this is the world in which we live, and they have to move with this.